I don't know why. I'll have to call him back. Don't you know what you're giving away for?
Hi, Dave. Dave? I'm good. He's about to go live.
It's 6:00 right now, Dave. Can I call you back?
Okay.
Well, I'm going live.
Well, it's done.
I have to start the show, Dave. I got to call you back, man. They don't listen. What does "I gotta call you back" mean to people? Does it mean something different than it means to me?
I'm Gary Semix, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abbate.
Pronounce his name correctly.
Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I am your host, Joe Abbate. Thank you for joining me. Susie is also here with me tonight. So let's get here in on the show, so to speak. Susie, what have we got going on tonight as far as giveaways? What are we doing?
Well, we have trivia.
Yeah.
Which is
we got a poster, right?
And then we have your appreciation, which is a mag light.
Yeah.
Courtesy of AMSOIL.
Mm-hmm.
And the poster is courtesy of Michael Cook.
Right.
And the What's the Worst segment is...
We're going to give away some stickers for that.
Yeah.
So we're going to give Steve Grandis the night off. You don't have to give away anything tonight, Steve. Okay, but we will get back to your generosity in weeks to come, and we'll get back to it at that point. In the meantime, I want to thank all of our sponsors that help us with the show every week. Racer X, the International Motocross Museum, Motion Pro, Bultaco East, Sirius Studios, Vintco, Full Circle Racing, Preston Petty Products, and if you'd like, you can make a donation to the show at any time using PayPal. We've got the board up, and it is looking better than ever. We also have, we've added some show supporters since last week, and if you want to be a show supporter for $49.95, you can do that. You'll get a shirt just like this, shirt of your choice, and you'll get 4 AMSOIL products as well. And on the board behind me, I think it's right about here, Tim Whitehouse. Tim Whitehouse today decided that he wanted to be a show supporter, so he's got a shirt coming to him and 4 products from AMSOIL. Thank you, Tim Whitehouse, and all the other people that are up there on the board. It's really been going so well lately. Thank you all so much. As I mentioned, the shirts, $24.95. We've got them in all the colors. Here, let me give it to you again. Let me show you that again. Here they are. Yellow, black, gray, and white. You can get the logo on any color shirt. You can get the cartoon on any color shirt. $24.95 up to XXL. $3 more, you get a bigger shirt. Free shipping. We take Venmo, Zelle, and PayPal. Here we have 2 of our professional models, Tom Miller and John Cockaval. You can see how happy they are in their Vintage Motocross Q&A apron, which is not just for working around the shop. It is really great around the grill. And, of course, T-shirt, wherever you may go, whatever you be wearing. Nice, great T-shirt goes with just about anything. And I don't see anything tonight. Here's what I do see. I see you sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Share the show. Let your friends know that you're watching. Share it on maybe some of your favorite Facebook pages. Tell us what you like about the show. Tell us where you're watching from. We want to know all about that and more here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Some additional supporters of the show. Steve Bauer, thank you in the Big Air Kids Fair. Trail Rider Magazine. Kurt Flashbart, thank you so much for all you do for us here at the show. And we're going to cut to a Next Time Try This segment, and we'll be back with a couple of more things in just a moment. Try This segment is brought to you by Vintco. Keep the ride going. You've often heard the expression, the right tool for the right job. Well, today I'm going to tell you about a little tool that's available from Motion Pro. and it's perfect, and it's the only thing you can really use to remove a bearing retainer cap just like this, which is found on the 1974, 1975 Honda Elsinores. This little part right here is part number 080227. It fits perfectly in this ring right here, and this is used to keep the bearing inside the hub securely on a Honda Elsinore. To get a closer look at what I'm talking about exactly is this aluminum ring right here. And what Honda has done is made it so it will hold in the bearing into the hub. What they've also done, in their infinite wisdom, was kind of peen this thing in 4 spots. Maybe peen's not the right word, but it looks like they have taken a prick punch here and have locked it in. It's very, very difficult to get out. It is aluminum, and many times people will try and get them out with the improper tool and then wind up cracking them, like you see here. It's very, very difficult to get out. Or, in some cases, they'll get even worse like this. With the proper tool, you can get it out. And that proper tool sits right inside those 4 holes just like that, and you can use a wrench. Now, I want to give you a couple of other tips too while you're doing this. Here's what it looks like with the bearing retainer cap removed. And as you can see, there's dirt, there's grime, grease, things get all caught up in the threads inside that hub. You want to make sure that's perfectly clean before you put that back in. And if you're going to paint your hubs, make sure that's all clean before you do that. Once you get your hub all cleaned out and you have your new bearing cap that looks just like this, comes in a bag, sometimes they're even available from Honda yet. You're going to have your thread all cleaned out, and it's going to look just like this. Nice and clean, ready to be put in. And what you're going to use there before you put that piece in, maybe some brake cleaner, something like this available from AMSOIL, or some lubricant, which is what you're going to want to put on the threads, a little grease maybe, or a little oil, so this thing slips in here. There's the bearing. You can see it's inside there now, and once you've got everything all pressed together, this thing should thread in by hand. By hand. There should be no force at all after you've got your new part. You've got your bearing pressed down in there. It's going to thread in nice and easy. When it gets down to the point of you can't spin it by hand anymore, or you're at the point where you want to get it nice and tight, you can put your tool on there, put a wrench on it, get it nice and tight, and it's not going to come out anymore. So, the right tool for the right job. You're going to wind up with things that look like this if you go to take it out with the wrong tool. If they're in good shape and you use the right tool, it'll come out in one piece, or when you go to replace it, you can put it back in just the way you see it right here. That's my tip this week on this little tool that's available from Motion Pro to get out that bearing retainer cap on your 1974 Honda CR250 rim. I want to thank Vinco for sponsoring this segment. Vinco, keep the ride going. That's right, Vinco. Keep the ride going with over 1,000 products in their catalog. They've been a sponsor of ours for over 5 years now, and Memorial Day is just upon us. And from what I understand, there's a Memorial Day sale going on at Vinco. Use code Memorial Day 2025 upon checking out, and you will get a special savings. Vinco. And Vinco.com. And they've got, oh my God, it's incredible how this catalog has grown between connecting rod kits, bearings, top-end kits, petcocks, of course, the air shocks, and so much more. Thank you, Kurt Leverton, and everyone over at Vinco. What's It Worth? What's It Worth is brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Be sure to visit Tom McAllister online at FullCircleRacingLimited.com. We've got a very nice bike that has been on this show before. It's a 1984 Kawasaki KX125. And this was sent in to us by Brett Lucas. And Brett tells me it's a beautifully restored low-hour bike. It had an NOS fuel tank. It's never had gas in it. The bike has new tires. Wait a minute. I forgot something. This is the point of the show where I ask you, the viewers at home, to guess how much you think this bike recently sold for. Whoever gets closest without going over gets 2 of each of these stickers. You get 2 Vintage Motocross Q&A stickers, 2 International Motocross Museum stickers. Okay? Let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. It's got an NOS tank. It's never had gas in it. It's got new tubes, chain, and sprockets, powder-coated frame, powder-coated fender brace. You see some great pictures of the bike here as Brett was assembling it. Again, it's got custom graphics, got rebuilt suspension, front and rear. It's got an NOS throttle. It's got NOS controls and grips. It's got an airbox cover, brand new bars, pro circuit pipe, new GPI radiator and NOS pump cover, kill switch, and miscellaneous parts and pieces. It was a show winner at the 125 Dream Race. Here's another good shot of it right here. Look at that radiator. See that on top? How beautiful the welding is. I don't know if that's just a brace or that's a replacement radiator, but that is some really cool stuff from Brett Lucas. Of course, the Lucas family motocross collection. We've had many bikes on our show over the years, thanks to the Lucas family. This is some of the NOS pump work that he was talking about a little bit earlier. And Brett did bring to my attention that I had this bike on this show several years ago. According to the screenshot that he's taken right here, it looks like I was doing the show from the York Swap Meet in January. I haven't done the show live or the day before the York Swap Meet probably in 4 years. So it was probably about 4 years ago that this 84KX was on our show. The question is, after going through all that and seeing the powder-coated frame, the new tires, tubes, rims, chains, sprockets, and the fender braces, the plastic, the rear suspension, the front suspension done, and all the other really cool stuff that you'll always see on a Lucas family collection bike, especially on Brett stuff, how much do you think this bike recently sold for? 35, 45, 55. This bike recently sold for $6,000. $6,000, and there it is. I had one of these. I had the year before, actually. What year is this bike? Did I say it was an 85? It's an 84. Maybe I had the 85. But mine didn't have a disc in the back, but it did have a disc up front. Anyway, it was a great little bike. It wasn't as nice as this one. $6,000. Susie, do we have
Robbie Racer.
Robbie Racer?
Ronnie.
Ronnie Racer is
Can I interrupt for a minute? We have a troller here.
a who?
A troller.
And what are they doing?
She is texting all these guys out in Huie. Her name is Patricia Laurel.
Patricia Laura?
Yeah, can you get?
I will help Patricia Laura in a very, very big way,
Okay.
and everyone else.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
That is the end of Patricia Laura,
Thank you.
and you'll never see her again. Is there anything else that
It was Ronnie Racer.
Ronnie Racer? Now, Ronnie Racer, I've never seen you on the show before. I don't recognize your name. Message me your full name and address, and I will get you. And I will get you the. What is it that we promised? The stickers. Okay, I got a little distracted here with Patricia Laura and her solicitation on my show. Okay, but we got that way. Ron Racer, congratulations on winning something like those stickers. Everybody loves stickers, huh? Also had some other people on here I wanted to thank for watching the show. Lee Miller, Tom Ewing, Greg Wynn, as well as Alan Huie, Ronnie Racer. I had you on the list here. Kevin Caldwell, thank you so much as well for watching the show, and everybody who supports it. I can't read everyone's name. We got 73 people tonight. I am so happy. It's one of the it's a good show. It's a good show. You got 73. And as I said, we're going to give Steve Grandis the week off. A very generous guy, Steve Grandis, not only a wonderful sponsor of the show, but always ready to give away something at a moment's notice. Thank you, Full Circle Racing. You are the sponsor of that segment. Thank you, Tom McAllister. Whether it's on-road, off-road, dual purpose, vintage, whatever it may be, get a hold of Tom McAllister. And Full Circle Racing will get you everything that you need. Sad news out of Hollywood, as well as the motocross scene this week. Lane Levitt has passed away. Lane is a three-time U.S. motorcycle trials champion. He was on the Vase B team, member for the International Six-Day Enduro. He's also an American Motorcycle Associates Amateur Sportsman of the Year. From his successful and professional motorcycle career, Lane went on to become a well-known Hollywood stuntman, stunt coordinator, action designer, and engineer. He had developed and invented so many things and reorganized really the movie industry as far as stunts go, as far as the safety of them. He was an Emmy Award winner and so much more to people, not only in movies and television, but to all of us in the motorcycle world. Our condolences go out to the Lane Levitt family. We'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A.
I get asked often, What's the most important thing on clunker? Answer simple, it's me. That's why I use Full Circle Racing wheels prepped by Tom McAllister. So should you. Watch this and learn why. When racing vintage motocross where suspension is very limited, your wheels can be the difference between winning or serious injury. We chose to run Full Circle Racing wheels because of the super high quality materials and the heavy duty spokes used. Prepped by Tom McAllister, I have the confidence on the track to push way harder through the rough stuff and the bigger jumps, knowing my wheels are going to stay under me. Hey, Clunker may be 50 years old, but his wheels are brand new, and yours should be too. Call Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing today.
All right, we are back live at Vintage Motocross Q&A, and it's my favorite time of the evening. You know why? Trivia returns to Vintage Motocross Q&A, and we've got a beautiful prize, and it's sitting right next to a beautiful prize that I captured many, many years ago. Here, let me show you the two of them together. There they are, the Racer X cover with Tony DeStefano and Jimmy Weinert on it, and of course, my beautiful bride of almost 39 years, the lovely Gladys Maria Torres Abbate. There she is. Okay. Now it is trivia, and trivia is brought to you by Michael McCook and a really, really cool page on Facebook called Motorcyclist Illustrated. That's on Facebook. And McCook Racing, an older but very informative website if you want to check it out on the World Wide Web. This is a call-in contest only. So 925-784-2195. 784-2195 is the number. You will have to call in. Now, one other, what is it they call that? When I can't think of the word right now.
Caveat?
No, well, it is like a caveat. Alan Huie, if you know the answer, don't call in. All right. You were really good last week. You were the winner the week before. You knew the answer last week when nobody else did, and you were nice enough to pay it forward, and we sent the poster to Rick Ash. This week, don't call in if you know. I'll give hints as we go along, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a little difficult, but that's kind of the fun part of trivia, okay? Here comes the question. Are you ready? Here it is. He was known as Mr. 875. He was known as Mr. 875. Who was he, and why was he 875? All right, operators are standing by. Did I give you the number? 925-784-2195. That's 925-784-2195. That is my personal number. Do not be a pain in the ass and call me during the week when nothing's going on. Have a good evening. We are going to go now to Dave's Classic Corner. Dave's Classic Corner, one of my favorite segments of the show, and it is brought to you by Dave Boydston. Dave Boydston from AMS Racing. You get a hold of Dave at 480-610-4574 or follow him on Facebook. Dave puts up a lot of videos from day to day in some really, really cool and interesting places. Dave takes us on these little jaunts with him throughout the day to different places that have to do with motorcycles, motorcycle racing. Sometimes he's even at a car show and things like that. So you got the question, right? Who's Mr. 825? Why was he Mr. 825? And who is he? In the meantime, we're going to get over to Dave's Corner, a very, very cool bike that Dave sent in to us the other day. I don't think you've seen anything. I know you haven't seen anything like this.
Here's a bike that dates back to virtually when the CZ Championship started in the early 80s. And this is a reed valve center port 72 CZ 400 motor put into a 73 Mako chassis with CZ wheels, tall seat. I put the 78 tank on it. One of the trick little mods though, if you look down here, you see the foot pegs, how they're mounted. I actually back in 70 and 71 had made this bracket in Auto Shop and moved my pegs back using the rear bolt as the front bolt and then drilling through that plate to move them back. And everybody thought I was kind of crazy, but I had small feet and I thought it handled better when I was standing up. This has a Thor arm, Kernut shocks, CZ wheels. Boy, there's a slicer of a brake pedal for sure. But this is a bike that would have run in the third year of the CZ Championships. And this bike was built by the founder of the CZ Championships. You're thinking Rick Neighbors? No, Jim Keaton. This was Jim Keaton's cheater bike, as usual. It doesn't have vintage legal forks on it. He just covered them up with those boots, and this is where he got his nickname Cheatin' Keaton. Go figure. Metzler tire on the front. If you rode saddleback, that was your choice. Looks like she's got a sun rim on the front. And that's an original CZ rim on the back, the way the dimples are not in line down here. You see these right here and how they're not in line and they're offset. That is the sign of the CZ rim right there. And he was the CZ guy. He loved them Cornet shocks. I'm not kidding. When I took the seat off the bike, on the frame right here is a Playboy centerfold with resin over it. And back in those days, we used to resin pictures onto old spools, make a tabletop out of them. And a Playboy bunny fold-out girl was kind of like every guy's little dream back then, especially when we were younger. It's got the same set of tires he ran in saddleback. That was a perfect tire for saddleback when it got dry right there. But a little bit of history with this motorcycle. Kind of special. You put a compression release in it to aid it and start it, and a little later someone put that modern Keaton, Keehan, and this is where he got his nickname Cheatin' Keaton. He was always running shit that didn't really belong on the bike. But see how the exhaust port had been moved over and re-welded in there so it would fit in the Mako frame. South Bay did that. A few of the guys were doing those mods to make center ports. Wayne Boyer and Tripes, those guys in San Diego had some. There's a bunch around LA that had them too. But this was Cheatin' Keaton's cheater bike. There you go.
And there you have it, Cheatin' Keaton's bike. The trivia question was, he was known as Mr. 875. Who was he and why was it 875? We have someone on the phone with us. And Susie says he knows who it is. You're on the phone. You're live on Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abbate. Who am I speaking to?
Hi, Joe. James LePaz.
James LePaz. Who was Mr. 875 and why was he known as Mr. 875?
Eric Gabors won all three classes, world championships, and it's 125, 250, and 500 all added together.
You are absolutely correct. That's why he is Mr. 875. And here I have a picture of it. Is Eric Gabors, of course, the late Eric Gabors, who was the first to win world championships. And you know, the 82, 83, 125 was certainly something special. The 250 was Honda's first 250 world championship in 87. He had a fabulous mechanic that year named Jukka Penttila. And what really was impressive, too, was he went on to the 500cc class in 1988 and in 1990 to become a world champion at that time as well. James, thank you so much for playing along with us. I'm going to put Susie back on the phone. She'll get your address, and we're going to get you a poster, compliments of Mike McCook.
Thank you so much.
You are. Thank you for watching. And there you have it. Now you know who 875 was, the late, great Eric Gabors. And we were going through the Dave's Classic Corner segment. Dave Boydston, thank you so much, Dave, for making those videos for us. Please keep them coming. And if anybody else would like to feature a bike on a show in a video, watch Dave's video. That's all you need to do. Walk around with that camera right here next to your face so we can hear you clearly. Go around the bike, give us some pointers. When you built it, why you built it, how many were made, anything that's significant. Keep it down to about 90 seconds, and we will have it here on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Here's the problem. Here's the problem is brought to you by Motion Pro. Be sure to visit them online at motionpro.com. 20% off across the board at Motion Pro, and we will have the code for you in just a minute. Here is question one. Rocky Bauer. Joe, looking for some help. Do you know what petcock will replace or work on a 76 RM370 Suzuki? I can't find any that will work. Well, I'll tell you, Rocky, the first thing I did when you said that or sent me the message was I went to look online, and I did see some places that had petcocks for the 250 76 77. Now, they're the same. but because there are so few and the RM 370 was only like a 1.5 year, but like half a year 76, half a year 77, something like that, you won't find them as easily. Just like many of the parts are interchangeable on the 74 and the 74 YZ250 and the 74 YZ360. But there were many, many, many less 360s as opposed to 250s, like 1,600 250s and 630 360s. Look for parts that are interchangeable. You'll have a little bit better luck. Also, if anybody watching this right now knows for sure where to get a Suzuki 370 petcock, help out our buddy Rocky here. Type it in. Let us know where you get it from. In the meantime, like I said, I looked it up online and I found some for a 250 right away. Okay? Let's move on to the next question. Joe, this is from Doug Nemeth. What effect does seat height have on overall handling? My CZ has a tall seat, which seems wonderful since I am 6'4". I'm curious how this plays out in handling. Well, Doug, talking to a guy that is barely 5'6" in cowboy boots with his hair combed back, I'm going to answer this question as best as I can. Okay? You see this picture right here? That is the Dunking Dutchman Rick Smits, Indiana Pacers center. Also, a huge vintage motocross supporter. That is a vintage bike underneath him. I believe it's a 74 Mako 440 or 400. And as you can see, at 7 foot, there's a lot of space between that seat and Rick's butt. Now, other riders have had this problem as well. Mike Bell, Steve Stackable, a couple of Supercross guys that are on the taller side that their names escape me right now. But as far as the handling of the bike goes, I think what you need to do is be comfortable on the bike before you can decide or start to think about how is it handling. Are the bars high enough for you? Are the pegs maybe low enough for you? Is the seat padding thick enough for you? I think you need to be comfortable on the bike first before you could say the front end is too stiff. The shocks are too soft. I don't like the way it corners. I think the forks are flexing. I think you need to be comfortable on the bike first before you can make those decisions, or I could tell you what you could do to make the bike handle better. So I can't really say to you, this is what you do to make the bike handle better, without going through step one of me saying to you, make sure you're comfortable on the bike first. At 6'4", I'd have to imagine you'd have to have a pretty good rise on those bars. The same thing for the foam in the seat. So think about that and think about this picture. You'd have to be comfortable on that bike before you could tell me anything about the cornering, the braking, or anything else you may like or dislike about the bike. Question number 3. Gary Davis, Joey, were High Point tanks made in England? Here's a High Point tank. And yes, they were. They were made in England for High Point. High Point was a company that was put together back in the 70s. The Penton family had something to do with that. So did Larry Meyer. And after they got done with the Pentons, they had the High Point trailer. And they went on to High Point boots and High Point aftermarket parts. So yes, Gary Davis, it is made in England. Motion Pro. Give you 20% off across the board on everything from Motion Pro by putting in code MP9135. That's MP9135. And get 20% off across the board. Thank you for Hudgens and Derf, as well as Russell Waters from AMSOIL, big supporters of ours here at the show. Russell Waters, love what you do. I love the prizes you've been giving away to our customers who plunked down to $49.95 for a shirt, their name on the board, and 4 great products from AMSOIL and Russell Waters. Thank you, Russell. And I am wearing the AMSOIL colors tonight for the show. We had that new segment the past couple of weeks. It's called Works for Me. It features Terry Good and I, and we talk about some very, very interesting bike parts. Over the past month or so, I would say we had the Suzuki RH and RN hubs. We had some magnesium carburetors. We had some cylinders last week from the DeCoster collection and so much more. Today, we're going to take a look at gas tanks. And Terry and I got together a little bit earlier today, and he sent me some pictures of some gas tanks. I asked him some questions about that. And a real special one that is in there is from the DeCoster collection. Anyway, you're going to see some really, really interesting stuff here between me and Terry Good. And we just recorded it this morning. Let's see what happens there. Terry, thank you for joining me again this week on It Works For Me.
My pleasure, Joe. Glad to be here.
Before we get started on today's topic, which is really interesting, the gas tanks, Honda tanks, fixing aluminum tanks, something very dear to my heart, and we'll get to that in a minute. But before that, I got a nice package from you yesterday. I got a box with these beautiful hats, and you sent me every one of them. The two that really stick out to me the most, this Honda RC500M and the Robert 250.
Yeah.
Tell me something. How many stitches? How many stitches are in each one of these?
Well, the guy that makes them tells me that there's Scott Lind is his name, and he tells me there's 15,000 or more stitches in just the bike alone for each hat. And how we do that is I send him a really nice photograph of the bike, and then he puts it in his computer, and he has software. He does this for a living, and he just does a fabulous job. That's all to scale, and it's about as good as you could get.
It's incredible, Terry, because you could even see the spokes.
Yeah.
It's really great stuff. And what do you sell these for on your website?
I think $33, and we don't pay a heck of a lot less than that. We're just trying to make expenses for all our expenses for the IMM until we open. There's plenty of storage fees and all kinds of stuff, attorney things, and I make up the difference, personally. So anything you buy from the store, from the gift shop on our website, goes directly to help cover the cost of this stuff.
Yeah, and it's 100% tax deductible because you're a
I am
not-for-profit organization.
Not for profit. That's right. We're registered with the state of Illinois, and so it's all good.
Terry, you sent me about a dozen or so pictures of some motorcycles and the tanks. I know you have a large collection of tanks. Let's get to the first one. This looks like Gary Jones's 73 Honda, correct?
No, that is not Gary Jones's 73 Honda. Gary Jones may have said.
There's no need to yell at me, Terry. I'm just asking.
I'm just telling.
What is it?
It's Billy Grossi's 1974 RC250.
Okay.
End of story. Full stop.
Okay. And on that bike is this tank. I've never seen black stripes so thick. Tell me about this. Is this the tank that's on the bike? How did it come into your possession?
I got that tank from one of the Honda mechanics whose brother had it from back then. And that gas tank is NOS. It's never been mounted on a tank. It was painted like that in Japan. And that masking tape you see over the gas cap, that's all original. So it's kind of a cool piece of it's a cool piece. So that's the story behind that gas tank. And you'll notice that it's relieved up by where it mounts in the front. And that's when Honda started going with the forward axle forks, that the triple clamp, the trail and all that of the front end changes when you do that. And so they had to relieve the tank there.
Now, Elsinore tanks that I work on, 1974, they usually weigh around 4.5 pounds. You think this thing's lighter than that?
It's pretty light. It's very, yeah, for sure. It's lighter than that.
Okay. Well, next up, Torsten Hallman. Is this the tank that's on that bike, or is it a different one?
It's the very tank that's on that bike. And what's unique about that photograph, this picture right here is at the Dutch Grand Prix in 1971. So that's Torsten wearing the leathers and all that. That's him working on the front end of the bike. And then there's another guy kind of crouched over by the seat at the back end of the bike. And that's Tanaka. He was a Japanese guy, very instrumental in this development. And really a lot of the things that brought Yamaha to the forefront back then. So this was the race, though, that Torsten scored Yamaha's first Grand Prix points ever in a Grand Prix motocross. So we have that bike, and that tank is the tank that's on the bike there. And let me say something else about these tanks. That 71 Yamaha, these particular tanks here, when I bought all of Torsten's bikes and parts from him about 25 years ago, I think I got 6 or 7 of these gas tanks. And each one of them, they're not stamped. Each one of these things was hand pound and out of aluminum, very thin aluminum. And each one is uniquely different than the other. There's no two that are exactly the same. In fact, there's no two that are real close to the same. This truly was a handmade gas tank from back then. So we have several of these 71 YZs, the 125, a few 250s, and one 360. And so we're real grateful to have them. A big part of history.
It sure is. Aki Janssen on Dermako. This tank looks like it would be painful to ride with. I mean, it's just so wide, high, and angular. It really looks like it might be dangerous to ride with. Tell us about this. Okay.
When Mako sent Aki to the U.S. for the 1972 Trans Am, they built 2 special bikes for him. The frames were hand welded. Everything was done by hand, but it was similar to production specs. They sent 2 gas tanks, style gas tanks with them. The small one, which you normally see on the number 27 bike, and then this one. And the reason for that was most of the Trans Am races were 3 30-minute motos.
Yes.
There was one that, at Carlsbad that was a 2 45-minute moto Trans Am race, and that was because it was the precursor to the very first U.S. Grand Prix that would take place in 1973. So this was the large capacity tank, but it's actually very thin. It's not very wide, but it's tall to hold the extra capacity of gas.
I'm sorry, Terry. You mentioned, I know you have the 27 bike of Aki Janssen. This is the tank from it or an additional tank that belongs to it?
That's the tank that Aki used on that bike at Carlsbad for the 2 45-minute motos. And that archive photo that I sent you is that race. There it is.
This one right here.
Yep, that's that tank.
Okay.
And I got that from Aki when I bought both of his Makos, the GP Mako and the Trans Am Mako, and then I bought his factory Yamaha, and then I bought all the parts, a lot of parts, and so that tank was there. Yep.
The next tank we're going to look at, I know it's a little bit of an interesting story. He was a friend of both you and mine, the late Marty Smith.
Oh, yeah.
And where I remember you telling me about this tank and where you found it, and it wasn't on a motorcycle. But let's get a look at the bike that it was on first. I think this is a 250 though, but the number 522 is on it, so it's his rookie year, correct?
That's correct. And Marty won the support class in the Trans Am 74 Trans Am series with that bike. And so he thought the tank that I bought, I got it from him. I bought it from him. It was on display in his surfboard shop in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone with him in the early 90s, and he told me he had that tank, but he said, it's off my 125. And okay, and this is before the internet where you could send pictures, and I talked him into selling me the gas tank, and I bought it from him. And when he sent it, I was like, this is from the 250, not the 125. And he goes, how do you know that? And I said, because on your 125, the pipe came up on the left side.
Yeah.
And on the 250, it came up on the right. And the tank, the pipe actually tucks up inside the gas tank underneath it. So it's concaved underneath there for the pipe. And so that's that gas tank.
Terry, why that where the petcock goes here on the left, we could see a little bit of a reserve, would you call it, or the tank drops down a bit. Is that to ensure all the gas gets to the lowest point?
I would think so, yes.
Okay, next up, perhaps the tank with the most stories we've ever heard. And it turned out that because of this tank, Roger won the 1973 World Championship, I believe. And he said that it was his most difficult season ever. And what we have here is the sand tank. Tell us why it's called the sand tank and its unusual shape, Terry.
Okay. Well, the 73 Grand Prix season in the 500 class was extremely dramatic, and it went right down to the final race at St. Anthony's, Holland, which is notorious. I've been there, actually, and it's notorious for its sand, sugar sand, and it just robs the horsepower. And on the day before the Grand Prix, during time trials, one of the Suzuki mechanics that was with Roger took a sample, and measured how much gas the tank would hold. And he goes, there isn't going to be enough gas in the bike for you to complete the Grand Prix. It robs too much horsepower. So they had 2 or 3 other gas tanks in the van, spare tanks, and they measured all of them, and none of them were sufficient either. So Roger took matters into his own hands. He took one of those gas tanks, drove to Belgium, which is a fairly decent hike from St. Anthony's.
Yeah.
And he drove to Lucien Tilken's house, and they opened it up. And as Roger said, yeah, Mr. Tilkens opened it up like a sardine can and expanded the capacity. And I drove back through the night so we could, we would have enough gas for this race. And that tank, all those stickers, the paint, everything is exactly as it was in that archive shot when Roger won the world championship. I sent you a picture of him and his mechanic, I think. There it is. You can see that sticker, the wear mark at the back where it joins the seat, all that stuff. That is exactly as it was from that day. It's that way now. And back when I bought this bike off of Roger, that tank was there. And I'd never seen it before. I had no idea what it was. And he told me that story, and I was like, so anyway, I've written about it many times. A lot of people know about it now, but maybe they don't know that it was only used for that race and then put away. Roger put a lot of things away back in those days, and this tank is it. And so, and when we had the bike out, and Justin Zink started the bike last October at that event we had, I made sure that tank was on it,
That video popped up on Facebook just last night. It was posted by Kevin Caldwell, and I asked him to get me that video, but it was really, really late. He was going to bed, had to get up early. He said he'll get it to me, and we'll probably have it on the show here, and not today or tonight, of course, but in the near future. And that is the tank that was on that bike. I don't know everything you have or all the historic pieces, but this has got to be in the top 10 of the most historic parts that you own, I would think.
Absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of parts. We've got a lot of stuff. But that tank right there is just, and the interesting thing is there's no shelf wear on it. There's no, somehow Roger kept that in. It's just amazing. It's a time warp.
Now, let me ask you this, Terry. I guess he and Lucien Tilkens threw a coat of paint on top of that thing that very night.
Yeah, they did. And I'll bet it was wet sitting on the back seat of his Mercedes driving back to.
I bet it was.
Yeah. So that's it. And it was a real dramatic, when you come back here, Joe, and we do our YouTube channel,
Yeah.
we'll do a feature on that whole 73 Grand Prix season. Nobody knows the half of what went on that year, from the Austrian Grand Prix when it got snowed and all the little things that went back and forth with Suzuki and DeCoster, and it was so dramatic, and how it all ended up in that last Moto at St. Anthony's.
Okay. Well, Terry, once again, thank you for these hats. I would put one on, but it took me like 4 hours to do my hair this morning. So I'm here. I'll put one on. I'll put one on. What the heck? There you go.
That's the special one. That's the
International
one.
Motocross Museum. Get yourself a hat.
Yeah.
This
We made those.
125 national champ on the side and Bob Hanna.
Yeah, we made those just for him. So I sent you one of those. Yeah, it's a special one. I know you like that bike.
I do, Terry. I do. Thank you for dropping in again for this week's. It works for me, as we call it, and we'll have something else again next week. Something very interesting, I'm sure. But so far, between magnesium carburetors and gas tanks, and what else did we do? Oh, we did the hub for the Suzuki RH RN. All of them are available at any time on Vintage Motocross Q&A in standalone videos. Terry Good, thank you again.
Links for the hats.
Thanks, Joe.
We'll see you next time.
Okay.
For the hats.
Yeah. We'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
The International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Be sure to visit them online if you're looking for swag, hats, clocks, shirts, whatever it may be. You can find them online at www.internationalmotocrossmuseum.org. www.internationalmotocrossmuseum.org. Thank you, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, Fast Guy Stuff, and Ben's Vintage Mini Bike Podcast. All big supporters of the show, sharing the show, giving us stickers, doing some great work for us in the vapor blasting area. And Ben's Vintage Mini Bike Podcast, the second Sunday of every month. Motor Showcase is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. And tonight we have a 1972 501 Mako, the Big Daddy. This comes into us from Paul Griffin. Paul says, unbelievable find. My dad's buddy Ray contacted me, told me he had bought my dad's orange 70 Mako 501 long ago, but that he never rode it. I went to pick it up at his factory in the Bay Area. It was stored in an attic with a bunch of other restored bikes. I stripped it down to the frame and I started from scratch. Engine was still in perfectly restored condition from Mo, my dad, but I went through it anyway to learn what was done. I rechromed the Italian Rodelli rims, the McGregor bolt on the crossbar handlebars, which is now a no-no in California. Yeah, it is kind of hard to find chrome here. W-laced the wheels back to stock form perfectly. I tracked down the stock Mechler tires from the 70s with the split knobby that actually is a different Mechler tire in this 71-72 era. I had my painter custom match the color of Volkswagen iconic popsicle orange, which is one of the colorways Mako used, knowing that the three colors, orange, yellow, and red, were the most popular selling Volkswagen bug colors in America at that time. Yeah, had a lot of, look at that pipe too. Is that thing crazy or what? Big old bazooka pipe on there, and the controls and the kill button, the dust covers, everything looks really great on this bike. All the McGregor controls were intact. They were clean to mint condition. The 501 was equipped with an ISDE exhaust system. It was nicknamed the bazooka pipe back in the day. It was an upgrade option for some riders competing in the International 6-Day Enduro that needed to meet the strict sound rules. And someone was wanting, it was for someone who was wanting a quieter Mako versus the Stinger that about 99% of them were sold with. I have seen a few with these bazooka pipes over the years, but never on a 501 with a larger diameter double pipe hanger ring like there is here on this 501. Well, I've got to say it, Paul, this bike is absolutely incredible. Nice history that goes along with it. Your dad, Mo, was a staple, of course, in the Mako world throughout the time when they truly roamed the earth when they were new back in the 60s and 70s. Thank you, Paul, for sending this into us at Vintage Motocross Q&A. If you'd like some stickers, I would be happy to send you some. Okay? Paul Griffin and the mighty 501. Did you know? This part of the show is written by Jeff Kokoski, but the segment itself is brought to you by Bultaco East. That's www.bultacoeast.com. Thank you, Steve Grandis. In just a moment, I will have for you the special that goes along with the Bultaco East sponsorship for this week. Steve has given us a special every week, and it's only available to those who are watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Did you know? Much like Detroit and the big three of the American automobile industry, Mazara region of Italy, situated in north of Venice, could be the Detroit of motocross bootmakers. The tiny area in Italy in the foothills of the Italian Alps is home to City, Garn, and Alpine Stars. Last fall, we talked about the history of City and Garn, but Alpine Stars is arguably the most famous of the motocross cobblers, primarily due to the popularity of vintage of Roger DeCoster and Bob Hanna. So did you know how Alpine Star got its start? 1963, Santa Mazzarolo founded the company in Asolo, Italy. Like his nearby competitors, Mazzarolo started out making hiking boots due to the proximity of the Alps. He called his new company Alpine Stars to pay homage to the Edelweiss mountain flower that grows prominently through the Alps. Here it is right here. Interesting story about the Alps and the flower, and wow. Anyway, in Italian, the flower is called Stella Alpina, or Star of the Alps, when translated to English. If you look closely at the Alpine Star logo, you can see the connection to Italy's national flower. By the mid-60s, the sport of motocross was taking Europe by storm. Mazzarolo recognized the need for a high-quality, purpose-built boot designed for the rigors of racing, and without losing the Italian flair for the elegant design or good looks. By 1965, the result was an all-leather, almost knee-high boot. That's this one right here, and with a half a dozen or so adjustable leather straps that pulled the leather flap enclosure across the rider's shin. The boot was an immediate hit and set to the mold for future motocross wear as well. And we even see it here, how all these years later, there are some similarities. Anyway, as motocross began to evolve, so did Alpine Star, and five-time world champion Roger DeCoster would be the most famous motocrosser to wear the Alpine Stars in the 1970s. And he never really altered boots brands after that time. Everything changed in 1975 for Mazzarolo and Alpine Stars. Looking for a way to protect riders' shins from the roost, especially from the big bore two-strokes, Mazzarolo riveted a stainless steel plate to a pair of boots, and he called them the Super Victory boot. They are absolutely beautiful, too. Not only did the plate deflect the roost to the true Italian fashion, it created a styling statement. About the same time, Ohio-based enduro legend John Penton worked with Mazzarolo to develop a line of off-road and motocross boots for his High Point Racing Products company, which eventually ended up on the feet of a teenage phenom from California named Bob Hanna. Because of DeCoster and Hanna and a four-time world champion, Heikki Mikkola, and dozens of other popular motocross racers, virtually everybody in their teenage years that raced amateur motocross wanted a pair of Alpine Stars or High Point clones under their Christmas tree in the 70s. Although they had become the most popular motocross boot on the planet, Alpine Stars did not sit on their laurels. They developed road racing boots, and they even developed toe sliders for flat track racers like King Kenny Roberts. And technology and materials at that time, Alpine Stars had released their Tech 7 boots in 1992. It was the first time that leather had successfully. Scotts and Heckles don't count because they were not really very that successful. Replaced by a man-made plastic polymer as the primary metal, aiding both function and safety. The Tech 7 basically set the standard for all those boots manufacturers to follow, even today. In 93, Sante Mazzarolo turned the reins over to the company to his son, Gabriele, who has expanded the company in virtually all facets of motorsports. Wow. Today, they're involved in IndyCar, they're involved in NASCAR racing, even mountain bike racing. Through the 2000s, they developed an advanced airbag system for the MotoGP and Superbike racers, and Marc Marquez crashed on his Repsol Honda MotoGP bike at over 200 miles per hour and virtually walked away due to that airbag system. Presently, Alpine Stars is still run by Gabriele Mazzarolo out of their northern Italy headquarters, but other divisions in LA, Tokyo, and Bangkok employing about 500 people worldwide. The popularity of Alpine Stars motocross boots is surpassed even today. Wow. Here's a trivia for you. Who's this guy with Alpine Stars in 1977 on a YZ125? That's right, it's Jeff Kokoski, the guy who writes up all these great write-ups every week for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A, and you didn't disappoint again this week, Jeff. Great article on Alpine Stars. The special this week, Fumbletaco East Bader shocks, made in Spain, 340 millimeters. They are 13.4 inches long. The regular price is $379.95 plus shipping. Because you are a member of Vintage Motocross Q&A and you watch the show, $289.95 shipping included.
Wow. Yeah.
$289 shipping included. Okay? All right. Sirius Studios. I love the gear Sirius Studios is making, Sue. And I talk about it all the time. You know I do. I love their hats, their T-shirts, that soft, comfy cotton that they make those hoodies and sweatshirts from. The Art of MX, they've got it there. Larry Winters and the boys bringing you first-class gear for the off-track scene. Thank you so much, Larry Winters and the Winters family. Wrap Suspension has got the week off this week. They're real busy down there. It's springtime. So Roger Neff is catching up on a few things. We'll be back next week with another video from Wrap Suspension and Roger Neff. Thank you, Steve Wise and Moto Fellowship. Catch Moto Ship every Tuesday at 5:30 Central on Facebook. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X, one of the finest motocross publications on your newsstand now. You can also get it online. 1973, a huge breakthrough for the Austrian motorcycle maker KTM. Got its first Grand Prix win when Russian star Gennady Moiseev won the Grand Prix in Yugoslavia. Moiseev won the first moto and then finished second to Håkan Andersson in the second time out to win the overall. Finnish rider Heikki Mikkola was second overall aboard Husqvarna. American rider Jim Pomeroy, in his rookie year in Europe, finished fifth in the second moto. 1973, despite being dominant in the FIM 250cc and 500cc World Championship scene the past years, Suzuki had yet to win an AMA National until this day in 1973. It happened in Olive Branch, Mississippi, just below Memphis, Tennessee. The man is Mike Runyard. He's riding a 500cc class here. Runyard won the last of three motos of the day and claimed the overall ahead of Kawasaki rider Peter Lampu, CZ rider John DeSoto, to give Suzuki its first taste of success in the second year of AMA Pro Motocross. 1997, in what would be a turnout to be one of the single most pivotal moments in the history, if not all of AMA Supercross, but the motorcycle industry in general. Team Yamaha's Doug Henry won the season-ending Las Vegas Supercross on a prototype Yamaha 400cc four-stroke motorcycle. It was the AMA motocross debut for the bike, which Henry had ridden in the 3 outdoor AMA Nationals that took place before Vegas that year. That was Gatorback, Hangtown, and Glen Helen. He and Yamaha decided to give it a try in Las Vegas, and since Henry, a points leader earlier in the series before breaking his hand in a collision with Jimmy Button, was not in contention for the win, they went out and they rode this bike, and as they say, the rest is history. And they're all riding 4-strokes today. And you know what? Doug Henry, an amazing man, paralyzed from the waist down in a motorcycle accident, still rides a 4-stroke Yamaha with a very specially fitted cage on the bike, and he can still throw down some heaters in those laps when he's out there practicing. Incredible, Doug Henry. Let's get to the announcements tonight. First one we have is Hodaka Days is coming up. That happens in Western Oregon, June 26th through the 29th. They've got a ton of sponsors. A lot of people come out for Hodaka Days, including Bob Hanna, Tommy Croft, and so many more. And in the next week, I'm going to have Ed Chestnut on the show. We're going to do an interview with Ed. We're going to talk about Hodaka Days, who's expected to be there, and all the wonderful things that happen up there in Western Oregon. World champion 1982, Brad Lackey, he will be your grand marshal at the Vintage Days, the AMA Vintage Days 2025. That happens July 26th through the 27th. Get up close and personal with Brad Lackey at that event. You want to be a sponsor of Vintage Motocross Q&A? We've got lower rates, more opportunities, a bigger board, all sorts of ways for you to get involved for as little as $49.95. And you know what? If you can't afford $49.95, buy a shirt for $24.95. Every little bit helps, okay? I'll send you a proposal package, and you'll see it's got all sorts of things in there. And people who have been sponsors of our show for quite some time, like Vinco, the longest-running sponsor, Full Circle, over 5 years. But Motion Pro has been there for us, Preston Petty Products, Amsoil, and so many more. And I want to thank them all for being sponsors of Vintage Motocross Q&A. That wraps it up for this week's segment. I hope you enjoyed that Terry Good deal, huh? You like that, right? Works for me. We're going to have more of that coming up. And thank you, all the people that tuned in. I think we had one of the biggest live audiences we've had in quite some time. And that wraps it up for this week's episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Gino! Oh, Gino, you just made it, Gino. All right? We will see you next week. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, even though it's over. We'll see you next week. Yes, Gino, I love you too. On Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thanks, Susie.